evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Lately I've been reeling, watching the nightly news. Don't seem to find the rhythm, just wanna sing the blues. Gotta get that fire back in my bones. So won't somebody please pass the megaphone? Oh, hear my prayer tonight, I'm singing to the sky. Give me strength to raise my voice, let me testify. Oh, hear my prayer tonight, 'cause this is do or die. The time has come to make a choice. Let it move you, let it move, let it move you. Let it move you, let it move you. Though I walk through the valley in the shadow of night, oh, with you by my side, I'm stepping into the light. I choose. Go let it move you, go let it move, go let it move you. Joy down in my heart to stay. I need that joy down in my heart to stay.
Well, good evening and welcome to a special edition of The Voice. We have missed you. It's been a while since we've done The Voice, and we're very excited tonight to announce that we have a bill that's just been filed in the legislature, House Bill 358, Save Women's Sports. Now, this is a bill you've probably heard about nationally because it's been filed now. We're the 30th state to file this bill to require that women do not have to compete in sports against biological males. Yes, you heard me right. Some places around this country and in North Carolina, due to a new rule passed by the North Carolina High School Athletic Association, people are allowed to compete in sports based on their gender identity instead of their biological sex. And that is the case now in North Carolina, thanks to this new rule that was passed on May 1st of 2019 and went into effect in the fall of 2019. Now, because of COVID, with the shutdown and everything, this rule was really only in effect for one semester. And now that we have kids going back to school in North Carolina, we are certain that we are going to see some biological males who identify as females enrolling in women's sports. And under the current law or rule from the North Carolina High School Athletic Association, they have the right to do that. And so we're very excited that House Bill 358 has been filed in the North Carolina House of Representatives by Representative Mark Brody. The other primary sponsors of the bill are Representative Pat McElrath, Representative Jimmy Dixon, and Representative Diane Wheatley. Now, I'm sitting here with two new friends that I'm very excited to introduce to you tonight. We have Beth Stelzer, who is the Executive Director of Save Women's Sports, which is a national group that was started by female athletes. And then we have Charlie Rae, who is a participant in this movement for women's sports. And Charlie lives in Raleigh, which is exciting to us because she lives in the capital of our state. So welcome to The Voice, and thank you for being here, both of you.
Thank you. It's wonderful to have the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you for being here.
Yeah. So Beth, tell me, how did you come to start this organization, Save Women's Sports?
Well, I consider myself an average American mom and housewife, and through the sport of CrossFit, I fell in love with the barbell, and after training for a couple of years, finally had the courage to enter the women's state powerlifting competition.
Wow.
And that day my chance to shine was tarnished because a male threw a disruptive protest the whole time because he wasn't allowed to compete in the women's state championships. And I had no idea what was going on. And now I come to find how women are sometimes being harassed, and it's just an unhospitable environment. And I knew I needed to speak up and do something. And here we are, helping making laws to save females.
Well, so women's powerlifting is a private organization, right? It's not a public or associated with any public colleges or universities.
Correct. Yeah, there are several different lifting organizations. So
they can make their own rules.
They can make their own rules, and in fact, in my home state, a male holds the women's state record in another federation. And
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, how did that feel when you were harassed by this biological male when you were there for the state powerlifting championship?
You know, it is just absurd that little temper tantrum even had to happen. But, you know, I'm so grateful that it brought me into this situation, and I can be here to help other women now.
So when you started training, I think you told me you did CrossFit, right?
Right, yeah.
And when you started training with CrossFit and lifting, did you ever think in a million years that you would have to deal with men identifying as women and compete against men?
Of course not. No.
Of course not.
You know, if I would have never started my fitness journey if that were the case. If I were to have to compete against males, there would be no point. And I think a lot of young girls are seeing that, and we already have stories of mom telling us that girls aren't coming to play because they know there's no point.
How sad. There's a deterrent effect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's not good.
It's very disheartening.
Yeah. Well, Charlie, I want to ask you a question. How did you get involved in this movement?
Yeah, so I actually got involved years ago when Bruce Jenner nationally came out, and I started to do research. It's something, I guess, that I had accepted in passing because of my social circles, but nothing that I'd ever focused on or really thought about. I don't think a lot of people think about it a lot or like do the research. So I started to do the research and I actually realized that like I had gender dysphoria when I was a child. But they didn't call it gender dysphoria when I was a child. They called it being a tomboy. So I just cut my hair short and I was athletic. And I remember having those feelings of like, was I born in the wrong body? And like asking my mom if I should have been a boy and like all those confusing thoughts. So yeah, it was like the whole Bruce Jenner thing started it for me, but I realized that I had gone through it. And then that's really what led me to speak up.
And so what age were you when you realized that you were happy being a woman?
So for my earliest memories up through middle school, I had gender dysphoria, and then I hit puberty, and that was kind of when I started to become more comfortable with myself. And from the literature, from what I've read, that seems to be the average case, that if there's no transition or intervention, that most children will just become comfortable with their bodies, like during and after puberty.
I think that statistic is 98%
Right.
of them
Yes.
become comfortable in their own bodies
Before they reach adulthood.
Same thing happened to me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, praise the Lord.
Yeah, you know, I'm healthy, and that's one of the main things that the reason I'm here is I could not be healthy today. You know, I could be very sick because of this, or even like have had my athletic abilities taken away from me because knowing that there wasn't any competition. Like I had 13 gold medals. Like I wouldn't have won those if I had had to compete against boys in fighting. So
Wow. 13 gold medals in what?
in Taekwondo.
Wow.
Yeah. I started when I was like 4. I got my black belt when I was 8, and I was competitive.
Now, I'm very intimidated by the two of you because I am not athletic at all. In fact, if someone sees me out running, they should call the police. Someone's chasing me. You know, I graduated from high school the year that Title IX was signed into law and written. And so you can see the difference between a woman my age who really didn't have many athletic opportunities and these younger women who have been products of Title IX. And so I just wanted to ask you, Beth, if you could share with us, what does Title IX say, and why is it being challenged?
Title IX was created in 1972 to prevent discrimination in the educational system on the basis of sex. So that meant protection for basically females. If there wasn't a boys team, the girl could play on the boys team. But now what we're seeing with Biden's executive order is that law is basically being rewritten to include gender identity in a conflation with sex. So that erases the definition of what male and female are and allows anyone to enter into that female category. And it's sad, you know, less than 50 years.
It is sad. And for those of you who don't know, in the first week of his term as president Biden signed an executive order making it clear that he expected schools to allow biological males to be able to participate on female sports teams. And just last week, he signed another executive order that changes the meaning of Title IX to make sex mean gender identity and sexual orientation. This is exactly what the U.S. Supreme Court did to the meaning of sex when they redefined sex in Title VII as it pertains to employment. And so that is what Beth is talking about when she says that the definition of sex is being challenged now by President Biden because of 2 executive orders.
Yes, and the second order, which basically erased Title IX, came to us on Women's Day, International Women's Day. Thank you, Biden.
The irony of that, isn't it? Oh, wow. Well, so March is the international month for women, not just in the United States, but across the world. And so it would be fitting that we would be challenging this new interpretation of sex, what it means to be a woman during International Women's Month, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it's a great thing to be here and be doing things that actually influence change in our society and standing up for what's right, speaking the truth.
Now, Beth, let me just ask you a simple question. I mean, your position, doesn't it really mean that you hate transgender people?
That's what people would sure like to paint, but I have transgender friends that agree with me. This isn't about a fear of anyone or rooted in hate. It's simply to do what Title IX was meant to do, and that's protect females on the basis of sex.
So it's more about women and protecting the rights of women than it is about these biological males that identify as women.
This isn't about being anti-anything or banning anyone. This allows equal opportunity for everyone to play fairly. And that's what we were all about.
So what about the science, Beth? I mean, surely there's science involved in this. And, people on the left like to tell people on the right that they operate on science. But what is this? How does science fit into this whole picture?
When you look at the actual scientific studies, they prove the differences between the sexes and that they are not, you can't mitigate them. You cannot change sex. And when this opposition claims that they have science on their side, they're often pointing to one study that was done by a transgender doctor of self-reported study of a few transgender athletes. And this is self-reported. This isn't even a scientific study.
So the sample wasn't big enough and it was just self-reporting.
Of course, yeah. It's just self-reported over a number of years. It's not actual scientific evidence.
So what about male bodies versus female bodies? Tell us the differences between men's and women's bodies.
Where do you start? So we're going to start with chromosomes. We're XX and males are XY. So that Y chromosome programs the body to function differently forever. You have stronger muscles, and those muscles can grow faster and easier and stay longer. Bone structures are different. We often look at the hip angles. Another one that recently came out is studies show that women are way higher risk at concussions.
Really?
Our heads are shaped differently.
I did not know that.
Yes, we're at way higher risk of concussions. And just when it boils down to it, we're different. That should be celebrated. And one part is the real reality of femaleness, menstruation, pregnancy, menopause. These athletes won't have to deal with that. And that's one very big reality of why I'm here and why I'm fighting for women.
That's great. Now, I read somewhere that men have bigger hearts, they have bigger lungs.
Bigger hearts, lungs, higher hemoglobin levels, and your hemoglobin is what carries your oxygen around in your body. So then if your heart and lungs are bigger and you have more hemoglobin, your oxygen capabilities are much better than a woman's. And those are all things that won't go away through any sort of, quote, transitioning or medical interventions.
So that adds up to longer endurance, doesn't it? If your hemoglobin levels are higher and you have
generally
your lungs are bigger,
stronger, faster. The average when you take kind of all sports is around 10%. But when you look at my sport, we have an amazing medical director in my foundation, Dr. Christopher Hunt, that put together the research to show that males have a 64% advantage over females. And when you take the actual records and the actual science.
That's just incredible.
So, yeah.
So you would know you were going to lose before you even walked out on the mat.
Well, for example, I've been training for years to be able to get where I am at. And my 10-year-old son, who hasn't been through puberty yet, is going to be outlifting me shortly.
That's incredible. Wow. So the science is real, and it definitely shows that endurance and strength, all those things, are greater for
We've had
males
several studies
than
in the last
females.
couple years that are actual scientific, like from the Karolinska Institute in Sweden, that shows us after 12 months that muscle mass doesn't change.
Wow. Well, it's incredible that we have so many people pushing on the other side when the science proves that men are stronger and have more endurance than women. What about hormone therapy? Does that help playing field for men and women?
The studies that we've shown, no.
So even after years of hormone treatments, men are still...
There aren't actual scientific studies to show us the long-term effects. And I think this is a good point to circle back to. We have women here saying no. We shouldn't have to have scientific studies to prove our reasoning of not wanting a male body in our space.
Great. You're right. Absolutely right about that. So, Charlie, let me ask you a question. So what sports have you competed in besides Taekwondo?
So yeah, I was competitive in Taekwondo, but I was also a competitive swimmer. I was a competitive gymnast. I did various camps like basketball, soccer. I was a dancer for about 6 years. I was a gymnast. I was a diver. I feel like I've tried everything when it comes down to it. Yeah.
That's really amazing.
Yeah.
And so have you ever had to compete against males?
Wow, that's a good question. I have had to compete against males. We used to run friendly tournaments at our Taekwondo studio, and I've had to spar against males before. Yes, yeah, and I won. But that was when I was younger, and it was pre-puberty, and there was less physical differences. And I think like the higher and higher you get in age and puberty, and then also in status of being able to compete, for example, like the Olympics, the gap just grows wider and wider. And it was also something that the only reason that we had males and females sparring with each other is because it was a friendly competition that we'd thrown ourselves. But if you went to a formal competition, it was completely sex segregated. And it just wouldn't have been fair any other way. Like, and the thing is, as an athlete, and maybe this is like what Beth was saying, that girls just don't compete, is like, you know this as an athlete. Like, if you're getting in the ring with a man or with a male, you know that you're at risk. Like, you know that you're at a disadvantage, and you know that like if you win, then you're the underdog. So I mean, it's something that you're extremely aware of when you're an athlete. And it was the same when I was a swimmer as well, that when I was on the boys swim team in high school, I was like the slow swimmer, but if I had been on the girls team, I would have been making state times and like been able to compete. And so it's just something that you're acutely aware of. And it's interesting that the ideology kind of pushes over that basic understanding that we all have.
Yes, it is. So what's your motivation for being involved in this issue?
So I guess my main motivation is the fact that I had gender dysphoria, and basically the understanding of what could have happened to me if I had lived in a different time. So like when I was a kid, it was taboo to be athletic and sporty and have short hair, but like you weren't considered a boy, and nobody wanted to transition you or put you on puberty blockers or give you plastic surgery. And it was a confusing social experience, and it was something like I definitely had to process with my mother. But my life would have been completely different if I had been born like 10 years later, if I had a different mother. Like I could be sitting here right now, medically experimented on, extremely sick, my bones brittle, my hair falling out. Like I could be sick right now. Or like I said, maybe I wouldn't have had my gold medals. I wouldn't have been a leader at my gym. I wouldn't have had those experiences to bring forth like into my life to become a leader in other ways. So, that's why this is an issue of participation. It's like, even if you don't win, being able to participate in your society is vital. That's the basic human rights experience, and that's why women fought for this in the first place.
Very well said. So are you saying that people are actually changing their bodies to become males so that they can have a higher competitive advantage over females?
No, of course not. What I am simply pointing out is that male participation in female sports is a growing problem. And we've seen just 2 male athletes in female track take 15 state titles, over 80 wins from girls. And 1 girl is too many, and that's why I'm here.
And what state was that? That was
in Connecticut. Yes, and those girls now are in a lawsuit. They're so brave and courageous.
They are.
Against the Connecticut schools.
Yes, so in Connecticut, they don't have a law that protects women from male participation in sports. And so these three women in Connecticut have filed suit against the state because two boys began competing against them in track and field and took 15 medals from them. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And no one stepped up to defend the girls. Isn't that what is so maddening about this?
It is. And what's even more maddening is women's associations that you would assume would be supporting us or actually advocating for these males to compete in female sports, like the Women's Sports Foundation and the Women's Sports Policy Working Group.
That is crazy.
It's really absurd. and that's also one of the reasons why I'm here, is they don't represent all women. They represent profits most of the time, sadly. And
well, women have fought for equal rights for 50 years and pretty much have won that battle until now. Now that we're starting to go backwards, right? Because men are being allowed to participate in women's sports.
It is backpedaling on all that work that we have done.
Yes.
And what a shame to think of all the women that fought before us. What would they think? And I want to remind everyone out there, what are you going to do? What are you going to tell those future generations of girls when they don't have sports? Because it's all male dominated and we have male sports, co-ed sports, and girl sports fade away.
That's a great point. I don't know any girl that wants to participate just to get a participation trophy. Do you? I mean, girls want to win just like boys. And so if they go into a race or into a mat or into some arena where they feel like they can't even win before the match even starts, that's just not fair.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It isn't so much about a participation trophy. We learn a lot by winning.
Yes, we do. So what are some of the advantages to doing sports as a woman?
Oh, as a woman, we can look at our leadership. Like 95% of females in government have played sports.
Wow.
So if we cut off
I did not know that.
that pipeline of opportunity, where are women leaders going to be? It sets you up with skills that are essential for a lifetime.
Well, in my own children, I noticed that sports was really great at developing character, like endurance, long suffering. You know, if you're going to be a swimmer, especially, I had a daughter who was a swimmer, and to go get in the pool at 7 a.m. every morning before school and swim miles and miles of laps. I mean, that really teaches you a lot about perseverance and endurance, and those are all great character qualities to have as an adult.
And isn't it just devastating to think that women like her could have that all taken away?
I'm
is. So grateful for the state of North Carolina for tackling this serious issue.
All right, so Charlie, what would you say to people who think that if we pass this bill, it's going to cause the state of North Carolina to lose money or to lose business?
Yeah, and I guess what I would say to that is Raleigh has a long way to go. North Carolina has a long way to go. We need to be thinking about our society holistically, meaning in the long run, if in North Carolina we don't have a place for women in our society, in sports, in public institutions, in leadership positions, we're not putting ourselves in a place where the state can thrive, because women need to be integrated into our society.
So in the long run, it may cost the state money.
Right, and like, it's the difference between knowing what's happening now and knowing where society is going. And so it's not popular now to say that this isn't right. It's not popular now. But if we're talking about our society and the way that we're going to structure our society for the long run, then how can you exclude half of your population? Like what?
That's a great point. Yes.
You know, and then, I mean, further implications, which I don't love to get into, but women are economic powerhouses. So a lot of economic situations and systems depend on women as consumers. So, like, you know, we could get into a bicker about money and like where the money's going to come from and when it's going to come from somewhere. But like, we need to be looking at money and economics holistically. So you could build a society based on fad right now. That's fine. It's going to be a brittle society. Like, we need to think about our society in the long run and making sure that we have fundamental places for women to be in society.
It's really absurd, isn't it, to think that just in the name of profits, we're erasing our rights.
It is. And it's frustrating as a woman. I mean, as a woman who's watched all of this, you know, I went to law school back before it was very popular for women to go to law school. And so to watch women in sports have rights taken away and opportunities taken away, mainly the opportunity. I mean, women don't feel like they have a right to win. They just want the right to participate and compete to win. So it is very frustrating to watch it happen. For those of you at home tonight who are watching who are not athletic like me, and you don't have a daughter, you don't have a granddaughter, I just want to ask Charlie, why is this important to people like that?
Yeah, good question. I mean, so you can start with the surface level that in general, sports are good for you. They make you healthier. They make you smarter. They make you more aware of your environment and more able to contend with your environment. But further than that, there are material gains that come with, like resources that come with being in sports. So for example, like sponsorships, getting into universities, getting scholarships for universities, being on leadership teams, being recognized in your society, getting media attention, like holding a place in your society. And then beyond that, there are social gains, which is like being connected to people. Like most sports teams are teams and they act as teams, and learning to collaborate in that complicated way is an extremely important thing for humans to learn. And so like there are just so many gains here that will be lost for females in general.
Wow. Well, I hope we don't lose those gains. We're going to try, aren't we?
That's why we're here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Of course, the North Carolina Values Coalition, one of the reasons we're involved in this issue is because we're a Christian organization, and we believe that God created man and woman, that he created them male and female. And so we don't believe that you can erase somebody's sex just by deciding mentally, you know, that you want to be a different sex.
We're separate, we're compatible, and that should be celebrated.
It should be. But we also believe in fairness. As Christians, we believe that women should have a level playing field. It should be fair for women. And women should be highly regarded by the society. And so when men are allowed to participate against women, it shows a disregard for women. And it really is threatening the very existence of the ability of women to have opportunities in our society.
Unfortunately so.
Yes.
But here we are. We're putting our stake in the ground here in North Carolina.
We are.
And we're looking for your support on House Bill 358.
Yes, we are. And so we hope that you'll call or email your state representatives. And you can do that, of course, through going to our website at ncvalues.org. We have a special tool set up that if you just enter your name and your address, it will automatically send an email to your state House representative in support of House Bill 358, which is Save Women's Sports. So are there any other things that you guys want to add that we haven't talked about tonight?
I don't know. Yeah.
If you'd like more about the fight, head to SaveWomenSports.com if you'd like to join our team and fight elsewhere. So.
Great. And Beth has a wonderful website with lots of information about this fight across the country. As I said, we are the 30th state to file the bill, and Beth has kept track of it on her website. You can keep track.
SaveWomenSports.com/state-legislation, and you can keep track of the federal legislation there. We have a Take Action page, so yeah,
it's great.
It's great.
Thank you
so
for
much
all
for
of your hard
opportunity.
work, Beth, and thank you, Charlie, for your work.
Yeah, thank you for having
Thank
me.
you both for being here tonight.
We so appreciate you, and we hope to see you when the bill goes through committee.
Yes, let's get that hearing.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us tonight for this special edition of The Voice, and we will see you very soon. But please go to our website, ncvalues.org, and take action by contacting your state representative. Thank you, and good night.
I want to be a champion. I've been told winning isn't given. It's earned.
It takes hard work. So while you were sleeping, I was sweating.
The long nights,
The early mornings. spending hours just to shave off seconds.
I want to be faster.
I want to be stronger. To be a better athlete. To be a champion.
I know when I step up to the line, I am the fastest girl.
But that will never be enough. This isn't about self-expression.
This is about a woman's right. My right.
To win.